Coming up, we're checking the facts with Autumn Bishop.
Plus, our student correspondents are bringing you the latest news that you need to know.
All this and more, you're watching Topicality.
When it comes to politics, it's important now more than ever to sift through the noise and get to the truth behind the headlines. Today, we're going to dive into some of the most talked about statements and claims surrounding the occupation of Palestine, Trump's executive authority in his second term, the effects of DEI removal, the ramifications of a federal freeze, and the process of recognizing an executive order. I'm Autumn Bishop, and let's check the facts. The first question is the U.S. really occupying Palestine? President Donald Trump has been pushing for the forced transfer of Palestinians from their territory, an action that directly violates international law. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt mentioned that Trump's occupation would be temporary in their territory, while Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that their plan was for Palestinians to be relocated for an interim period, while Trump himself is proclaiming a permanent displacement of Palestinians to bordering countries like Jordan and Egypt, which violates international law. Article 4 of the Geneva Convention Treaty mentions in depth the protective treatment that establishes legal standards and protections for civilian treatment during times of war, genocide, and defense. These conventions, ratified in 196 countries, were established in 1949 to combat attacks on civilians, homes, hospitals, schools internationally, which is very relevant in the war in Palestine. This treaty prohibits forced displacement and annexation of occupied land. Since then, the wrongful overtaking of Palestine has been occurring, leaving 85% of the territory displaced, starved, and defunded. While there's been no formal statement given by the Trump administration to formally occupy Palestine, the U.S. provides economic mobility to Israel through our tax system, military support, and diplomatic support, which many international bodies like the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, and the United Nations object to. The second question is, can Trump run for a third term? Trump cannot lawfully seek a third term in presidential office because of the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution. It limits the president to 2 elected terms in office, noting that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Unless the Constitution was amended, Trump cannot run again, though some of the president's constituents have indulged him, including Tennessee Republican Representative Andy Ogles, who has even introduced a constitutional amendment that would specifically allow Trump to run for another term, but not any of his two-term predecessors. This does not deflect from the reality that Trump has made several threats to democracy, inciting the January 6th insurrection and also stating to his voters that in 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good, you're not going to have to vote. The third question is, how does the removal of DEI affect individuals? The removal of DEI impacts all individuals, but its effects are the most prevalent in marginalized communities. The fundamental premise of DEI initiatives is access to financial mobility, education, and professional development for those communities who've been systemically and socially chastised. For example, workplace resources that were DEI initiatives were needs like parental leave for fathers, wheelchair-accessible spaces for disabled individuals, work-from-home accommodations, religious holiday time off, that even includes Christmas, language translation services, pay equity calculators for gender pay gaps, and lactation rooms for nursing. Without these DEI policies, those accommodations were for Americans were taken for granted and were risking being lost, which directly harms marginalized communities. The effects of the decision will reinforce discriminatory practices with fewer protections, especially based on race, gender, religion, and class. The fourth question is my FAFSA affected by the funds freeze? No. Your existing FAFSA loan is not affected by the funds freeze. The freeze was temporary, and the FAFSA is currently available for everyone. This Tuesday, the Trump administration issued a statement saying, any program that provides direct benefits to Americans is explicitly excluded from the pause. This includes Pell Grants and direct loans. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, additionally made a statement. To individuals at home who receive direct assistance from the federal government, you will not be impacted by this federal freeze. There was a funding suspension on discretionary grants that were awarded through merit. Please note that the 2025-2026 FAFSA application closes on June 30th, 2025. And our last question of the day is, do executive orders go into effect immediately? Executive orders have varying timelines for when they'll go into effect. While some others go into effect immediately, like the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, others may require a more structural and serious approach. For instance, the severe overarching issue of paper straws in this country. In all seriousness, the halt of production and transportation of goods can take up to months to adapt to new orders. So the answer to the timeliness of orders passed is subjective. Executive orders tackle both urgent and sometimes trivial adjustments to regulations. That's all for today. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the facts and myths in our ever-evolving world. Until then, I'm Autumn Bishop. Don't forget to check the facts.
The Prairie View A&M Naval ROTC program was established in March of 1968. So at that time, during the Vietnam War, it was compulsory to be involved in a military program. So Dr. A.I. Thomas, the president of the university, was interested in establishing a naval ROTC unit to complement the Army ROTC unit that was already on campus. Interestingly, at the same time, the Navy was interested in expanding the diversity of the Navy and Marine Corps, and particularly the officer corps. And so it was a natural fit, and Prairie View A&M in March of 1968 became the very first naval ROTC unit established at a historically black college or university here at Prairie View A&M.
Prairie View A&M University has always been somewhat of at the point on the frontiers of change. And the Naval ROTC program was again one of those programs that was implemented to keep us out on the point. They knew that they being Dr. A.I. Thomas and others knew that the Navy was a front runner and was pretty much an elite operation. And by allowing students from Prairie View to become a part of that would make us world-class leaders. And so the program was designed to take country boys like myself and expose them to a different world, a different set of values and rules and regulations, and we adapted. It changed. It was a game changer for us.
Me personally, I can honestly say that I wouldn't be here without this program. I'm from a small country town in Arkansas with about 10,000 people. This gave me an opportunity to get outside of my comfort zone. Being 40 minutes from Houston, I never thought I would see myself here. I always knew that I would be on a college campus somewhere, but I never thought or even dreamed that I would be in the United States military, particularly the naval service. This has given me a platform to be able to reach back and be a provider amongst my family. I also got to travel and see tons of the world, which is something that a lot of people, they really enjoy.
My job as a professor of naval science is to develop young men and women mentally, morally, and physically as they get ready to commission into the United States Navy and the United States Navy. Here at Prairie View, what makes it special is our midshipmen. And so you think about a unit that now is 50 years old, that has produced over 400 young officers in the Navy and Marine Corps, and to date 3 flag officers, which is a remarkable accomplishment. So Vice Admiral David Brewer III, Rear Admiral Kelvin Dixon, and Rear Admiral O.C. Combs Jr. Tremendous accomplishment to have 3 flag officers from a unit that early.
So what makes this program unique is that we are the first HBCU to establish an ROTC. And with that, I feel that we have a lot of shoes to fill. With those 3 flag officers, I feel that there could be more. And with our diversity growing, I think that we can accomplish that.
It helped to mold officers and we used to say gentlemen, but gentle women and officers. It helped to mold us. it gave us, again, skills that we didn't really know about.
The product that Prairie View has been able to generate over the past few years since I've graduated and even before then has completely changed the dynamic of what we're producing for the fleet. Whenever you go somewhere now, your first ship, like myself, when I reported on board the USS Vandergrift, my weapons officer was a Prairie View graduate. So it's pretty nice to know that they're turning out products that are actually staying in to pursue their military career.
And I've met so many amazing people that want the same goal as me, and with that, I feel it just makes me want to be better as a person and hopefully bring that out of the Navy later in the future.
And I can't say what the next 50 years will hold when you think about modern warfare or what will be needed from a military service. But I do know that if we remain committed to ensuring that our midshipmen are able to think critically, to function as a team, to build individual resilience, to take the enormous amount of data that's available to them today and be able to sort through to get to what matters, to be able to problem solve in a complex and ambiguous world, that our Navy and Marine Corps is going to be in great shape over the next 50 years and beyond.
Hey Panthers, I'm Bailey, and welcome to My Picks of the Week, where each week I'll bring you a new book, podcast, or documentary to keep you entertained and informed. This week, I'm recommending The Seedy Underbelly of American Presidency, Destination White House, a documentary by Timeline. This doc probes the presidential campaigns that have changed America through the eyes of former campaigners, journalists, and researchers. Find out how financing crime and corruption and TV debates play a major role in swaying political opinion on the way to the White House. My second recommendation is the Project 2025 song by Jason Kravitz. In this schoolhouse rock style video, Kravitz, who voices the Project 2025 manifesto, dives into a few very shocking but very real aspects of Project 25 that deserve a greater look. Well, those are my picks of the week. So whether you're looking to engage with thought-provoking content or explore new interests, I hope you found something that resonates with you. I'm Bailey Boyce. Thanks for watching.
Have you ever found yourself in a political discussion where a single confusing term completely derails the conversation? Or have you ever felt completely left out because the conversation was going over your head? Well, we're here to empower you with the vocabulary you need to be involved in your democracy. I'm your host, Gabby Handcock, and this is Well Defined. Starting with our first term, an executive order. An executive order is a signed, written, and published document from the President of the United States that puts in place certain ordinances to manage federal government operations. This is seen as instructions for the government to take specific actions. Sometimes executive orders can be referenced by their assigned number or their topic. Often, the executive orders that are assigned by a number are unique to the order and consecutive to past executive orders. Executive orders can not only be put in place, but also be revoked by the president at any time. However, normally executive orders relate to and benefit the current president's policies and programs. The next term we will be exploring is fund freeze. The freezing of funds is by abruptly halting federal loans and grants. Frozen funds prevent any movement, transfer, alteration, use of, or access to funds that can change their value, location, possession, and other possible alterations. A situation where this was put in place was with President Trump's recent memo for all federal agencies to temporarily pause all activities related to obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance. When this occurred, many college students were put into frenzy about wondering what would happen to the funding that's putting them through college. The freezing of these federal funds meant students were at risk of not getting their FAFSA funds, their refunds, or their loans and grants, which is why people were worried about their college education being at risk. Now that you all have a better understanding of funds freeze, let's go to our next term, Inspector General. Now, an inspector general is someone who investigates the government and watches over any fraudulent behavior. IGs, as they call them, also watch over and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. A short overview of their primary responsibilities are to provide leadership, coordination, and normally recommend policies. These actions help promote the economy and successful audits needed to inspect their government. The head of their program usually is always fully informed of the deficiencies that relate to their administration. If their agency needs to be improved on, then an inspector general would be the one who searches for what their agency can do that will set them up for success and support strategic innovation. Let's take a look at our next term, muzzle velocity, which is the speed of a bullet or any kind of projectile leaving the barrel of a gun. This is normally measured by feet by second or miles per hour. Recently, this term was used as a metaphor for the recent actions Trump has been carrying out. With how Trump has been issuing executive orders and policies with one after another, one would refer to his actions as muzzle velocity. We are now on to our last and final term of the day, oligarchy. An oligarchy is where a select few individuals are responsible for ruling and being the ones who control their society and make the governing decisions for their country. Now, this is seen as a corrupt form of government. For reasons that show oligarchy government has been used to abuse the minorities of their society. Many are seeing this trend in our current president and the small group of elites that he has now. 46th President Joe Biden even commented on this in his farewell speech by warning, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy. At Trump's inauguration, he had a row full of the richest people in the tech world in front of the row full of his potential cabinet and secretaries. Observing how tech billionaires had primary seating over the cabinet and secretaries left many citizens of America worried and questioning what's to come of our very own democracy. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you feel more equipped to engage in the conversations that shape our futures. I'm your host, Gabby Handcock, and you've been watching Well Defined.
At Prairie View A&M University, we've been igniting passion in students for more than 140 years. It's about inspiration. It's about global influence. It's about self-expression and individuality. It's about trailblazing a path of excellence. It's about engaging in the greater community. Above all, it's about helping you realize your dreams. Ignite your passion. Experience Prairie View A&M University.
That's all for this week's episode of Topicality. Make sure to follow us on all social media.
And remember, for a country that has not even reached 250 years of age yet, we're already falling on the principles that we've established ourselves on. Don't let that happen and be the change. Good night, everybody.